Hello and welcome to the Is AI the Future of AU podcast series. I'm Peter Vackas and I'm the Technology Lead for Accenture in Australia and New Zealand. In this three-part series, we discuss the state of AI adoption in Australia, the challenges and opportunities for AI adoption, and how AI can be embedded into an organisation. Thanks for joining me today to discuss the challenges and opportunities for AI adoption. With me, I have my friend and colleague, Amit Bansal, who is a Managing Director at Accenture Australia. Amit, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Peter. Glad to be here.
Oh, it's good to have you with me. Now, before we get into the conversation, I might just take a couple of minutes to set the context for today's discussion. Recent Australian research shows that a quarter of Australians fear that AI and automation will make them redundant and take away their jobs. According to the same study, less than half of all Australians expect the future to be a better place with AI, which is quite a staggering number. Many of the fears have been spurred on by comments in the press from iconic people like Elon Musk, like Bill Gates and Stephen Hawking. It seems to me we have a discussion, or a debate I'd say, that needs to happen in the Australian community to accept and address justifiable fears about AI's impact on society. So Amit, with that, what do you see as the main barriers to implementing AI technologies in organisations in Australia?
There's a number of barriers that we see. I think if I call out three main ones that I see, one is the perception of AI, right? There's a big fear factor of AI. AI is going to take over jobs. It's going to be like Skynet, it's doomsday, etc. That's why people like Elon Musk, etc., are in the press talking about starting a movement around using AI not to be weaponized, just be used for human good.
They're very two different fears, though, right? There's the fear of Skynet, right, and the world being taken over by robots, and then there's probably a more realistic type of fear, which is that people will lose their jobs.
Absolutely. So there is a big fear that people are going to lose their jobs. The automation will drive out human jobs and they'll be all taken over by robots. That's one big fear. The other barrier that I see in organisation adoption of AI is very much around everyone in Australia particularly is an experimental phase, right? It's a shiny new technology. Everybody wants to play with it, but no one thinks through the benefit of why you want to do it. No one's thinking through, how do I actually industrialize what I've just done a POC, right? It was a nice fancy POC, but now what, right? That's not happening. And then the third biggest barrier is there is no thinking around an ecosystem, right? It's still, everyone's worried about their little niche, their little industry, and not thinking about partnering with research organizations or partnering outside their industry to drive the adoption of AI.
So is that a problem specific to AI? Or is it a more general problem with innovation in this country?
In my opinion, it's a general innovation problem in this country. I think we are known for bringing innovation in, like, Wi-Fi, steam engine, etc. We do a lot of these things, but there's a broader issue around adoption and driving it at scale. Right? It's just to do with innovation. It's more to do with us not wanting to invest and believing in our ideas and not really wanting to explore them further.
Yeah, it's interesting. In this country, I think the conversion ratio of innovation is not very good. We have some great inputs, the ideas are there, but turning them into something tangible, scaling them up, making them a real business opportunity. Anything else in terms of barriers?
I mean, those three are big barriers. Obviously, there's also the regulation barrier, right? And everyone is just waiting for the government to do things. I think the businesses need to take some lead here. They need to lobby the government. They need to drive the agenda here. That's not happening, right? It's happening all over the world. Like Europe is taking a lead. The EU is driving a lot of discussion. And in the US with the autonomous vehicles, the insurance companies, the motor companies are all driving that discussion. It's not happening in this country. And as you know, regulation takes a long time to change. So if we don't start the discussion now, it's going to get even harder to adopt these technologies.
Okay, so Accenture in their research advocates that a human-centric approach needs to be taken if we're really going to be able to scale up AI and if people, the general public, is going to accept it. So what do they mean by that? What do we mean when we say human-centric approach?
I mean, by the nature of it is, AI can be used to interact with humans differently, right? We're all used to clicking a mouse, touching a screen, and following prompts on a screen, right? But our natural way of communicating with humans is through conversation, like you and I are having right now. So if you start looking at AI as a way of changing the way we interact with computers and you design it for a human conversation, you're going to get a better outcome, right? That's a key part of that. And the other part is we talked about the fear around AI. So organizations, when they're looking at implementing AI, they need to think about the moral part of it, the ethics, and transparency, right? If they provide that transparency to their employees, to their clients, and their customers and the public, you'll see a faster adoption, right? And that's what we mean by human-centric design. Think about human front of mind.
So to pick up on more on the first point there, so are you saying that, so to date, a lot of the technology has been what I call in our faces a bit. It's there always around you. Even the mobile phone, even the smartphone, you've got to pick it up. You've got to constantly look at it, right? It's not seamless. It doesn't just fit in with our lives. Are you saying with AI that technology will interact with technology very differently? It'll be in the background. And a good example is if you've ever seen, the film Her.
Yes.
AI is just in the background. It just does things. It's very technologically advanced, but you don't see it. It's not in your face.
I mean, very good example at the moment. The big trend is using Alexa and Google Home, right? Yep. Now Google's released a smaller version of Google Home as well, and the adoption rate is massive because it's not about the technology. It's not doing anything unique that we haven't been able to do before, but it just makes it very simple. You're having a conversation. You're saying, okay, Google, do this for me. Or if you're in the US using Alexa and saying, hey, I need to buy this doll for my daughter's birthday, and it's a very seamless process. You're not giving credit card information. You're not searching through catalogs and stuff. It's just a very simple process. It's like you telling your partner that we need to go buy something for our daughter because it's her birthday tomorrow.
Yeah,
right?
My mum will love that. Anything to avoid touching a screen or a keyboard. If you can just talk to something, then she's sold. So what role do you think service providers like Accenture play in shaping the conversation around AI and also helping reveal the benefits to society, to people, etc.?
I think we have a major role to play here. I mean, we're at the forefront of this discussion with our clients. We're shaping their thinking around this space. So we should be, when we're designing these strategies and these solutions for our clients, we should be thinking about value. The value should be both from a customer value, the community value, and the shareholder value, right? That's how we should be driving all our discussions with the client. And, we've launched a whole movement around ethical use of AI. And I think responsible AI is what we call it. I think that's where our big role is. We work with a lot of business partners, software partners, etc., to start looking at how do you actually apply AI in a way that helps humans in not only in productivity, but also for betterment.
I think it's a great point that we need to think about an ethical perspective on AI. But is that something that anybody can do alone? I would have thought you would need a global response to do that because different organisations, different governments can do what they want. But if it's not a global response, then somewhere else on the other side of the world, someone's doing something very different that can impact all of us in a detrimental way.
I know, I absolutely agree with you. But you got to start somewhere, though, right? You got to start local. You got to think global as well, right? So you've got to have that thinking, because if we always rely on, well, it's going to happen globally, we'll wait for it, we'll never do something, right? So I think we need to start having those conversations. We have a very important role to play in that. You'll always get clients who just want to solve a specific problem. You solve that problem, but then you need to think about it ethically and say, is this the right thing to do?
So if you could provide some key takeaways for how businesses can implement AI positively and seamlessly, what would they be?
I would call out three key things they should be thinking about. One is very much thinking of a broader ecosystem, right? So if you want to apply AI and make a big difference either in your business or in the community, you need to think of a bigger ecosystem. It's not just about your firm. It's got to be broader, right? The second thing to think about is how do you actually embed this in the fabric of your organization, right? We used to talk about this from an analytics perspective 5 years ago, embedding analytics and insight into the fabric of everything you do. Now it's think about that from an AI perspective, right? And finally, just on the previous point around human-centric design, that's very important because that brings in the elements of how it's going to be used, what are the ethics around this, and are you bringing any bias into your solution, right? You want to make sure you are thinking through what's the purpose actually going to drive for you.
I think you're right. I think it comes back to the key theme here is digital trust, right? Unless people can trust AI and in general technology, they're not going to adopt it. That was fantastic, Amit. That's been really interesting. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Peter. It was a pleasure being here.
I hope you enjoyed the podcast. For more information, you can visit accenture.com.au/AI. See you next time.